I am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. Welcome to Social Impact Sundays at 6, where we have massive social impact that leads to massive income. And today we have an amazing guest. We have Trish West. She is a mental health social worker and speaker. She's going to tell you all about her experience, her background, private practice, being a psychiatric social worker, all the things. So welcome, Trish.
Thank you. Good. How are you? How are you? How are you?
Oh my goodness, I am doing amazing from good old, I would say, sunny Florida, but it's actually cloudy today. But hey, we are here.
And I'm in the cold North Carolina, believe it or not. We usually don't get cold, but we have cold today, but it's a good day. The sun is shining. So yes.
Exactly. So it is a good day, and it's a great day for you to tell us
Yes.
what inspired you to go into social work.
So I always tell people like what my daughter, who is now 23, that's what inspired me to become a social worker. At the age of 7 weeks, we had the opportunity to adopt at that time. And we were told by a family member, my husband and I at the time we had a 12-year-old. We had been trying to have another baby. We were told we couldn't have any more children. So it was like, okay, well, then let's adopt. And we ended up going through kinship. And we got her at 7 weeks old. It took us 3 years to adopt her. And we went through the Department of Social Services, and it was all the red tape and, everything that went through. And I was in school at the time seeking a degree in business. And every social worker that I encountered, I was like, this can't be it. This just can't be it. And it was so traumatic. I also like it was traumatic for me. I started changing what I was going to study. And I said, I'll be a social worker. There has to be one confident social worker out here somewhere, and I'm going to be that one. And that's what I did. I started studying. I changed my major. And I'm glad I did. In the midst of it, I learned a lot. And when the 3 year time span, the judge said, you kept great notes. It was your notes that really helped because it would counter what was being told to us. And so I tell my daughter to this day, it's because of you that I'm a social worker.
That is a powerful, heart-wrenching story. Like, oh my goodness, you have that personality where you're like, you know what? I'm not having a good experience going through the system for an adoption. And you know what? It has to be better. And guess what? I'm not waiting to see if there's
Right.
going to be some other miraculous, amazing social worker. No, I am going to be that social worker for someone
Right.
else who's experiencing what I'm currently experiencing, or
Yes.
something else.
Yeah, and I always said, I wanted to be the voice for those who had little or no voice. And here's a 7 week old baby who has no voice, and we're trying to do right. We told people it wasn't about the money because we're not getting enough money for it to really, make a difference. It wasn't about the benefits because we both were working, we were okay, but it was just the red tape, the bureaucracy, everything that we went through. And it was just emotionally, it was draining. And I was like, it should not be this hard when we are pushing to adopt and to foster. And yet you have a couple who's willing to do that and you're making it complicated. And so I just decided, I was like, I need to learn. I need to learn. What is it that a social worker is supposed to do? We have this thing in the community where social workers come snatch your kids. They just snatch. And it's like, no, it's so much more to that. And so she has been my inspiration for so much what I do in our profession.
Yeah, and you're changing the narrative. Like, no, all social workers do not just snatch kids, and even the social
Exactly.
workers who work in adoptions and child welfare, they don't just snatch kids.
Right, right. And it's everybody too. And it's like you're going taking people kids, and I'm like, no. And I'm like, yeah. So and again, it's educating the community, educating the folks, and that I use that platform, I use that opportunity to like as I'm learning, I was sharing with others what I was learning to them so that we could change the narrative. Like this is not what you think it is. It's a whole lot more to it. And all social workers don't do the same thing. And snatching kids is not what social workers do. So, yeah.
Exactly. Any other narratives that you want to dismantle, say good riddance, goodbye forever.
The stigma of mental health, especially in our Black and Brown communities. I always tell folks we tend to hide within the church or behind religion. And even in my own family, we always talk about those family secrets and how they take those secrets to their grave because they don't want people to think, oh, I'm crazy or we have crazy. I tell folks, we all have a little bit of crazy in us. I said, but mental health is real. It is real. We need to address it. I always share. I use my platform when I'm speaking or whatever I'm doing to share with people the same amount of effort that we put into when we're going to the doctor because we have high blood pressure or we're diabetic. The same amount of effort, you had to take that medication every day to keep your blood pressure down. You have to take that medication every day to monitor your insulin. It's the same effort we need to put into our mental health. If we have a diagnosis of bipolar and there's a medication that we could take, why not take it so that we can manage it better? And I just, my goal is to really try to change the narrative with the stigma of like mental health is just this taboo thing. We don't talk about it. Let's stay away from it. It's like, no, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yes, let's have those conversations. And when it comes to the different areas of social work that you practice in, because like you said earlier, not all social workers do child welfare. So tell us about your experience and what you've been doing since you've become a social worker in the profession.
Well, when I first started, I lived in Baltimore, and through grad school, I had a great opportunity to do my internship with an agency called Family Connections. And we work with inner city families. And I love that experience because we really got to show folks that it's not just like it's okay to not be okay, that it really is. And then we did a lot, which I loved the most, was working with grandparents raising grandkids. And so I love that because those grandchildren with their grandparents for different reasons, many of addiction may have been a reason, incarceration may be the reason why the grandparents were raising, but we were there for support, to educate and to advocate. And so I love it, which is what we do in our social work profession. We support, we advocate, we educate, all of those things. And so I loved it. And then I transitioned to North Carolina, where I am now working as a psychiatric social worker. This is totally brand new for me. And again, that's the joy of social work. We can change and we could do so many different things, and I love it. And I also have a private practice, Noel Integrated Services Incorporated, where I work with various ages. But and I love that too. Totally different from the psychiatric social worker. Because with this, I do a lot of case management, but then I get to do the therapy through my private practice.
And tell me more about your private practice.
So the pandemic, it kicked off in 2020. I had the opportunity, I'm working from home now. So, I had the opportunity to really think about it. I had a mentor who had been encouraging me, which, this is what we do in the social work profession. We want to encourage and uplift each other to go to the next level. And she was like, why not? And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I know enough. And she was like, Trish, you know enough. You're ready. Imposter syndrome was real. It was totally real. And I just stepped out on faith and I contracted with a group practice. And so I've been doing Noel Integrated Services now for 4 years. I birthed a baby in the midst of that, which was Just Breathe, which is now I have nonprofit status. I'm excited about that. But it was a support group for females ages 12 to 21 who are struggling with anxiety, depression, self-harm, and suicidal ideation. And that too came from my 23-year-old daughter who was struggling with self-harm when we relocated to North Carolina. And she was like, Mommy, I have friends that are cutting, that are doing this and that. And what can we do to help them? And she was experiencing the same thing. And we created this support group that is now a nonprofit. So private practice has opened up some other doors for me as well.
And Trish, this is the thing that I love, love, love about social work. It's just the flexibility, the options, the freedom. Like you talked about working with grandparents who are raising, their grandchildren. You've practiced, you're currently practicing as a psychiatric social worker. You're also
Yes.
doing private practice. You're also the founder of a nonprofit. And that's the awesome thing about social work is that
Mhm.
we can our skills are so transferable that we can
Yes.
do so many different things. And it's totally
Yes.
okay because it's still all in alignment.
Very much so. And even out of, the one thing I've learned is even out of fear and out of feeling like I don't know, that I do know. I just had to step out there and do it. And once I stepped out there, I'm like, that what drove you to become a social worker, wanting to have that voice? Now use your voice. Use your voice to educate others. Use your voice to say it's okay to not be okay. Use your voice to encourage those in the Black and Brown communities to seek therapy. Use your voice. And so I'm using my voice, even when I'm feeling anxious, even when I'm here talking to Lequita and I'm like, I'm using my voice, like use your voice to, just really encourage folks that it really is okay to not be okay.
That's a really great piece of advice, especially for other individuals that's experiencing imposter syndrome. You're
Mhm.
basically like, just do it. Tap into
Yes.
your why. Use your
Mhm.
voice. And even like you mentioned quite a few times, your daughter inspired the nonprofit, inspired you to go into social work. And I think that's the thing sometimes we miss because we are great at so many things and it's a tons of things we can do, but sometimes we have to really hone in on what should we be doing in this moment,
Exactly.
just based on our purpose, our why, and really having that self-awareness. So I really love how you mentioned that.
Yeah, and the why is really, I love when people say like, "What's your why?" And it took me a minute to figure out like, what is my why? And I love when I like first heard your story about being a single mom and how you were intentional. You set these goals and you went after each goal. You're like, "Nope. If it's not going to take me here, I'm not going to go there." And you were intentional about everything. And when I think about people's like, "So what's your why?" And I'm like, "Well, I just don't want to be working for anybody. Well, I just want to." But my why was really my kids. My why was I wanted to leave a legacy for them. They're now adults now. My oldest, she'll be, God, I mean, I think about it, she'll be 35 on Monday. And then I have my 23-year-old and my son is 20. So my why has been them. And then and again, I listened to your video and then you've been talking about purpose. And I was like, purpose. And I was like, I have my why, but my purpose. And when I kept thinking about my purpose, it was like, use your voice. It kept going back to your voice. Use the platforms that you are being blessed to speak on to share about mental health. Use what you have and stop doubting what you know, stop doubting who you are, and step out there on faith and use what you have. And so, like I said, even when I'm feeling anxious or I'm fearful, I just still step out there and say, I'm just going through it. I hope if it does nothing but impact one person, I'll take that. And so, yeah, I just keep at it.
And with you saying that, you will be using your voice more with different speaking engagements. So tell us
Yes.
more about that.
Yes, I've been invited. I've been a part of, I've had the opportunity to speak at several virtual conferences that's been international. That have definitely been an experience. So last year I got to present virtually in Paris, France, and this year I've been asked to actually speak in Miami. They're doing one in Miami. So I wanted to do some local, and the very first one was in Croatia. I was like, I don't even know where Croatia is. But it was the experience of it, and it was great to do it virtually this year. The hope is to continue with that series and to go to Miami. I'm coming out next week with I'm a co-author in a devotional. I'm excited about that. Joy 365. And so I'm definitely stepping out on faith, stepping through all that fear that I'm having and just like, okay, use your voice. Use your voice.
And as you're talking, I guess the scripture that kind of comes to mind is our gifts will make room for us.
And I keep, when I first started, somebody had suggested for me to read the book, The Prayer of Jabez, and talking about expanding your territory. And I kept saying, God, like expand my territory. But wait, only if you feel like I'm ready. Only give me what you feel like I'm ready for. And so when I prayed, and he has definitely, to sit here and speak to you was something, to just speak to folks about mental health was something I never even thought about. Having a private practice wasn't anything that I thought about. It was like I just happened to walk into a door and someone says, "Hey, how about this?" Or someone would introduce something else to me. And it's like, I don't know. And I was like, and I used to call myself the background singer. And my girlfriend was like, girl, stop being a background singer and be a front, get out there in the front. So I've had to push through the fear to get out there in the front because again, my voice is mental health is real. We all need help and it is okay. It's okay to seek help. So yeah.
It is totally okay. And how can individuals connect with you with your private practice?
So I have a website and I'm so excited because it just got revamped. So I have a new website. It's www.in Noel Integrated Services, NIStherapy.com. But I'm so grateful that you gave me this opportunity to use my voice. I'm just so grateful to be able to contribute to our profession in a way of like, let's help to remove the stigma of mental health. And I think that's the biggest thing, that stigma that is there, that to help people to see that you don't have to be afraid of it, that we can talk about it. I talk about a lot of it at my church. I share with everyone at my church what I do because I feel like it needs to be talked about in the pulpit. Our pastor does a great job talking about mental health and putting it out there. Actually, title of the message last Sunday was about bipolar faith, and I was like, "Where's she going with that?" But it was actually good. But she was just talking about how we could be extreme in our faith. We could be here 1 minute, next minute we could be there. So mental health is out there. We just can't run from it. We can't ignore it. We need to embrace it, learn about it. And as social workers, we need to be able to educate, we need to be able to advocate, and just be a support for people.
Trish, I just want to say I appreciate you for using your voice to change the narrative of the social work profession through the social work movement. I really do thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for what you do for putting it out there. The social work movement. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I am Lequita Brooks, your social impact speaker and strategist. Thank you for joining us today for Social Impact Sundays at 6, where we have massive social impact that leads to income. And make sure you go to www.thesocialworkmovement.com to get involved. So then you can use your voice or your time, your talents, your treasures to get connected in changing the narrative. Thank you again. Have an amazing day.